Welcome to Excel Business Math Series number 12. We're using the workbook Business Math Chapter 01. If you want to download it at YouTube, user/ExcelIsFun, all one word. Down here is my college website link. And all the way at the bottom of this page, Control-N, gets you to the Business Math Excel workbooks. If you're enrolled in the class here at Highline, just go to our normal class website and you can download it. Hey, multiplying and dividing. We're going to see a bunch of things in this video. First, let's just talk about whole numbers. We have 690 times 43. This 690 right here is called the multiplicand factor, and the second one is called the multiply factor. I just call them factors. Don't worry about this right here, factors. When you multiply, you have 0 times 3, you get 0. And then there's this 3 right here, so then you go and multiply it times the 9. You get a 7, and you write the 2 right there, 27. So 3 times 9 is 27. And then finally, you say 3 times 6, and that is 18, and then add that little 2 there, so you get 20. That's the partial product, 3 times 69. Then you add a 0 right here. When you go zip over one digit to the left, you have to add a 0 here. So then we just do the same process here. 4 times 0, and then we have to write a 0. 4 times 9, that is 36, so you write a 6 there and a 3 there, and then 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Then you add these, bloop, and then there you get your answer, the product, or the answer, that's the product. Let's go ahead and do it right here. Equals this multiplication symbol, the asterisk, times this. And we should get the product, 29,670. Now here, is an example, 300 times 70. Well, notice there's 2 zeros there, and there's 1 0 here. So if you hack off all those zeros in your head, then you just go, and notice there's 2 here and 1 there, so there's 3 total, right? Then you just go 3 times 7 is 21, plus the 3 zeros you hacked off. And so that is a great estimating trick. Let's just see if it's actually true. Equals this times this. Now wait a second. Up here, I did the top one times this. Here, I did this one times the top one. Is that OK? Yeah, because multiplication is commutative. You can do it in any order. 1 times 2 is the same as 2 times 1. Now, let's go over here and look at the products function. Because if you have a big, long line of things right here, you do not want to go times, 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 times. So we'll say equals. We're going to use the products function here, equals product. And then I'm simply going to highlight this whole range right here. And then enter. And that multiplies it. Let's see here, equals product. And I'm going to highlight this and enter. And finally, product. And I'm equals product. Highlight those two. Now, when you use something for the first time like that, you don't have to believe it. You're like, oh, OK, I guess that works. Well, then let's go over here and say you can do it by hand on a piece of paper, or you can come over here and go this times this. And then sure enough, I got the right answer. That product function seems to be pretty good. All right. Let's go down here and look at division now. We want to divide whole numbers. And actually, let's look at this little thing right here first. 4 divided by 2. Hey, wait a second. That's a fraction, right? Yeah, but a fraction is just division. 4 divided by 2. The top part is called numerator or dividend. The bottom part is called denominator or divisor. I tend to use numerator and denominator. What if we write it this way? 4 divided by 2 equals 2. This is the numerator. This is denominator. And this is the quotient or answer. If you write it this way, which this is a bad little thing like that, when you learned in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. 2 is the denominator. 2 divided by 4 divided by 2. So this is the numerator. This is the denominator. 4 divided by 2. This is how we learned it at first. And then we learned it like this, but then eventually we just realized, oh, yeah, they're just fractions. Zeros in division, well, you can go 0 times 4, 0 divided by 4. That's OK, because we know that this 0 times that 4 equals that 0. However, the reverse of this is not true. 4 divided by 0, huh? What? Is not defined because what times 0 equals 4, right? We don't know what to do here. So that we just call that not defined. Another idea in division, reciprocals. If you have 1 divided by 2, that's the reciprocal of it is 2 divided by 1. All right, let's look at dividing in Excel. 256 divided by 16. We all know that that's 16 because 16 squared is 256 equals this. And then we use our forward slash on our number pad is most efficient, and then that. Let's go ahead and look at this example here. I'm going to say equals this divided by this. And then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to do this. Notice that it looks like they're kind of similar. Equals this divided by this. What? How come they're the same? Because you can omit zeros in division, right? There's 2 zeros there and 2 zeros there, so you can just hack them off. Really, you're dividing each number by 100 when you hack off those 2 zeros. So that's a great shortcut. Now let's slide over here a bit. I'm going to use my horizontal scroll bar and just look at this right here. I want to do a formula here. 876 divided by 2 equals 876 divided by 2. Now notice this formula right here. I haven't used the F4 key to lock it. So this formula says equals 2 cells above divided by 1 cell above. Control Enter. That puts the formula in the cell and keeps that cell highlighted. And then Control C for copy. Notice the dancing ants are jumping around, so we've copied it. And then click here, Control V. And then click here, Control V. Aha. What are we doing here? If we click here and hit F2, which is edit, we can see that that is exactly the formula we wanted there. 2 above divided by 1 above. And same with here. Not only that, but what we've done here is we've figured out what the prime factors are of 876. 2 times 2 times 3 times 73 equals this 876. We'll talk about prime factors next chapter. But what we're seeing here is division. If it's a relative cell reference, you can just paste the formula down in other cells that have the same setup. Now what about multiplying decimals? If we don't have to worry about rounding, then we just simply multiply them, right? Equals this times this. And there it is. But what about if we have to worry about, let's see if I can make this a little bit. All right, so here we have a quantity. We're going to buy 5 boomerangs and price. We have 22.25. Now, technically, we don't need to worry even though we're multiplying decimals because this is a 5, this is an integer. And if this is actually in pennies, which it should be because that's a price, then we're never going to get any fractions of pennies. So we can simply multiply these. Equals this times this. And we get a 111.25, $111.25. What about here? Hours times wages. We're going to use this gross pay over here. So what's the rule? If we're multiplying decimals, then we have to use the round function. Why? Because we're required to round because it's dollars. We're multiplying decimals, and we're going to use it in a subsequent calculation. So round this times this. So we can just build the round right around our calculation. Comma 2, because we're going to the penny, and then enter. I already have cell reference there that's looking over there, so it has that answer. Now, what if we only want to figure out the tax rate here, and we're never going to use this again? Well, we could just go equals this times this, and then make sure it's formatted, right? Let's increase the decimals and see what happens. See, there is a decimal hanging out there, so that might mess up future calculations if we were going to use it. Control Z, that's the keyboard shortcut for undo. The undo is right there, Control Z. Now, if we were going to use it, of course, we would then hit F2 and just round it. Don't forget that. Lots of people in this class do badly on tests because they forget to round. That's why we've been doing it so much. All right, dividing decimals. Now here's 1760 divided by 0.25, and here we have 1760 divided by 25. Let's just see what this equals. It equals that one, the numerator, divided by the denominator. Now I'm going to copy and paste it right here because that relative cell reference will work. If you don't believe it, hit F2. Why in the world is that true? Well, there's a trick you can do when you get to decimals. If you slide the decimal 1, 2, and 1, 2 here for both the numerator and denominator, then you would end up with this, and then it's easier to do if you had to do it by hand, right? So that's a by hand trick. But notice, really what we did is we multiplied this by 100 and this by 100. Well, when you do division, that's eliminated anyway, because 100 divided by 100 is, of course, 1. So there you go. This little statement right here is 17.6 divided by 0.25 equals 1760 divided by 25 equals 70.4. Now, what happens when you divide a number? We're going to take 15 divided by 0.25. So in the denominator here is a number between 0 and 1. Anytime that happens, the answer or the quotient will be bigger than 15. Let's just do our formula. Equals 15. Now watch this. I don't have the screen big enough, so this formula is kind of crowding out. I can't click. I can do my division symbol here, but I can't click on that. There's a few ways to do it. You could type it in, C74, but that's always dangerous. I'm going to click right here and then use my arrow key. Another way to do that is you could say equals and click on that divide, and then use your up arrow key. And in edit mode, point mode right there, point, that means you can get your move your cursor. Let's do that again. Equals this divided by, it actually says enter here mode, and as soon as you do your up arrow, then it says point because you're in point mode. Your arrows are pointing to the cell reference. Now I'm going to hit enter. So it is 60, right? Because this number is between 0 and 1. When it's in the denominator, that means the answer or quotient is going to be bigger than this. Now, what happens when we put a 1 here, just to see how this works? Well, of course, 15 divided by 1 is 15. What if we put a 2 here? Notice it's going the other direction. It's not below 1. It's not below 1 and greater than 0. It's going the other direction, 2. Right? So then the answer or quotient gets smaller and smaller as this gets bigger and bigger. But if this number is somewhere between 0 and 1, as we had 0.25, then of course the answer is going to be bigger. Different ways to express quotients. 20 divided by 15. You could write it as a decimal, 1.33333. You could write it as 1 remainder 5. Or you could write it as 1 and 1/3. We want to see a couple functions here. I want to show you the quotient function. And this will give us, when we do our division, 20 divided by 15 is 1 remainder 5. The quotient function will give us the 1, the whole number part. So quotient function will give us whole number part of quotient. I'm just going to put a whole number part. And then we'll see the mod function. Mod function will give us the remainder part. So we're going to try the quotient function. And numerator and denominator. Here's the numerator, comma, the denominator. And that'll give us the 1. And then the mod. Notice it doesn't use the same terminology. Shame on them, but actually that's the way it is in the real world. So the number is going to be this, and then the divisor is going to be this. Divisor, also known as denominator. And so that gives us the 5 part. Now, next I want to look at a quick rounding way to estimate when you're looking at something with your eyes and you're going to quickly get an estimate. We have 29,548 times 0.10. So we're going to figure out how to do this real quick. Well, how about rounding this up to 30,000? And then sliding the decimal. See the decimals right there? Zip, slide it one place over to the right, and that gives us 1.0, which is 1. Then we can simply multiply these, right? And then we could slide the decimal right. The decimal is at the end of the 0, so we'll go zip, 1 to the left. We're left with 3,000. That's a trick you do in your head. Let's go over and look at the PDFs and look at a little bit of this by hand. How do you multiply whole numbers by hand? So we have 6,718 times 2,392. Well, first you start with this 2 right here, and you multiply by everything, and then the 9 by everything. Let's start with the 2. 2 times 8 is 16. I'm going to carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 3. Put the 3 down here. 2 times 7 is 14. Carry the 1 right there. And then finally 2 times 6, let's see, that's 12 plus 1 is 13. Now when you get to the second line, which means right here, notice we already 1 in, so you have to put an extra 0 right there. And then you start all over again. 9 times 8, we have 72. We put the 2 right there, and then the 7, I'm going to put it up there. Then we have 9 times 1, that's 9 plus 7. That'll give us 16, so we have the 6. Put the 1 up there. Notice I was very careful to put all of them on the same line when I'm doing the second one. So I have a 1 there. 9 times 7 is 63. So we put the, but we have to add 1, so we put the 4 down there. We put the 6 all the way up there. Finally, we were left with 9 times 6, which is 54, plus the 6 is 60, and you put it right there. You then have 2 decimals, digits you've already completed, so now you're on to the third, so you have to put 2 zeros here when you get to this line. You then multiply the 3 times everything, be sure to carry with that level there, you get that number. Finally, when you get all the way out here, 1, 2, 3 zeros, because we've already finished 1, 2, 3. Do all your multiplying, you end up with this. Now you have to add them. Now, when you're doing this by hand, I remember doing this stuff by hand for my graduate test. They didn't let you use calculators like now. What did you do if you wanted to make sure? Then you had to do division, do some sort of check on this. So we could take this and do division. Right? We could see how many 2,392s are in this number right here. Well, when we're doing our let's scroll over here a little bit. So when we're doing our division, we're asking how many of the 2,392s are in this. Well, we'll start with the 4 digits, but there's not even 1 in there, so then we have to go all the way to here. Well, shoot, I don't know how many is that, so I have to come over to the side and do some multiplication. This number times 6, and I get 14,352. This number times 7, and I get 16,000. Well, that's bigger than this right here, so I'm going to take this one. Notice I had to go all the way out here, so then I have to put the 6 up there. I put the number I got, 6 times this, there, and do subtraction. I get this number here, 1717, and I have to bring the 4 down. Now I have to ask how many of these are in this one. Well, I can see from this right here, I got 7, right? So I'm going to put the 7 up here in this column where I just brought the 4 down. I put this here, I do the subtraction, I get the remainder here. How many of these are in here? Only 1. So I put the 1 very carefully up there. 1 times that, I put that there, I do the subtraction. I get this number, bring the 6 down, and finally I had to do a few more calculations on the side. I got this times 8, and I got exactly that number right there. So I bring that 8 right up there. And sure enough, when I go back up here and look, that is exactly the number I had. So that's checking your multiplication using division. Now, what about decimals? Let's see if I can bring this better into the screen here. The key to decimals multiplying is to just multiply straight, but you got to count the decimals. I have the 1, 2, 3 steps over here. First, you count your decimal. There's 1, 2. And then 1, 2 here, so you put them and add them. 4 total decimals. So you simply, at the end of the very end of the problem, will scoot our decimals for to the left. So we simply multiply using our same rule as before. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. You continue that for that line. Add a 0 at this line. Add 2 zeros on this line. Add them all up. You get the answer. Now we do our sliding of our decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 134.045. Man, isn't it easier in Excel? As long as you can figure out how to use the round function and when you have to use it, boy, it's much easier. You could also check this, right? Same as we're doing multiplying, but how we want to check to see if we got the right answer. So we're going to take this 6.46 right there, and with the answer we got, the product, we're going to put that right there and find out how many of these are in there. Well, here we got a bunch of decimals. If we're doing division, we can actually slide 1, 2, 3. But be sure if you slide it here, to slide it over here, just 1, 2, 3. And then make sure you draw the little decimal there, and then go ahead and ask the question. Do your division longhand. How many 6,460s are in this? Ooh, I have to go all the way to here. 13,404. Well, I had to do some multiplying off to the side here. Okay, so I got the 2. Put the 2 right there. 2 times that is this. I do the subtraction. I get this remainder here. Then I have to bring down a 5. Now, wait a second. There's nothing more. Well, I have to bring down a 0 here. And ask how many of these are in this one here. Well, I had to do it again. I have to try 7. I got 45,220. 220. So I write that there. I do a subtraction. And sure enough, I guess over here I did 5, multiplied 5. I got this answer here. And that was 5, so I put the 5 right there. And sure enough, the decimal's up there, so I got 20.75. And sure enough, that's what I had up here. All right, there's another little example here in the PDF handwritten notes. But that's how to do a little bit by hand, but that's not our emphasis. We were just comparing, seeing how brutal it is to do by hand. And then we saw some tricks for multiplying and dividing in Excel. All right, we'll see you next video for word problems.